Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating. We are completely demystifying the hijab. We're going to trace its incredible journey, starting from ancient standards of modesty all the way to its powerful evolution on the modern runways of global high fashion. It's quite a story.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with beyond the headscarf, then move into the guidelines of modesty, followed by the history of the veil, the modern resurgence, and finally, hijab and high fashion. Building up this foundational knowledge first is going to make our fashion finale incredibly rewarding.
Section 1. Beyond the headscarf. Let's kick things off by addressing the most common misconception you might have. When you hear the word hijab, you probably just picture a headscarf, right? But the term itself, which literally translates from Arabic as veil, actually denotes a much broader modest dress code. It's really about upholding a moral social order when in the presence of men outside the immediate family, and it encompasses both physical and spiritual modesty. For so many women who adopt this practice, it's actually deeply liberating. It acts as a protective shield against street or workplace harassment, and it serves as a profoundly spiritual daily practice that is completely intertwined with their personal agency in how they dress.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that the practice of veiling, it is not uniquely Islamic. Not at all. It actually has a massive historical footprint predating Islam entirely, with variations showing up in ancient civilizations, Semitic religions, and even Hinduism. In pre-Islamic Arabia, for example, it was primarily used as a status symbol. It was basically an early fashion indicator used to differentiate free women from slaves. And depending on where you travel in the world today, you'll hear this modest practice called by local names like purdah, chador, or khimar.
Section 2. The guidelines of modesty. Let's transition over to the spiritual text to see the specific rules that establish these practices in Islam.
Chapter 24, verse 31 of the Quran directs that believing women should draw their scarves over their neck openings and not display their beauty except what ordinarily appears thereof. Grounding ourselves right here in this primary text is absolutely crucial to understanding the practice. And note that the specific Arabic word used right there in the text for that head-covering scarf is himar.
And this brilliantly illustrates a point that often gets completely overlooked. Islamic modesty rules, they actually apply to both men and women. The specific areas required to be covered are known as satra or aura. Now, for women, it's the whole body except the face and hands. For men, it's the area from the knees to the navel. Because the face and hands are not considered aura, they remain uncovered, even during deeply sacred times like daily prayers and the Hajj pilgrimage.
But, there were definitely exceptions and nuances here. While the wives of Prophet Muhammad, known as the Mothers of the Faithful, were held to a much higher, stricter standard that included covering the face and limiting interactions, the everyday guidelines for the broader population actually emphasized practical flexibility. I mean, the rules are sensibly relaxed when you're seeing a doctor, a ruler, or a judge. On top of that, there's a huge emphasis on household privacy. The Quran explicitly requires people to seek permission before entering private rooms or other people's homes. So modesty isn't just about the clothing you wear, it's about respectful personal boundaries. And this universal respect for household privacy meant that how someone dressed in the comfort of their own home was totally distinct from their public attire.
Section 3. History of the veil. Now let's shift the narrative from spiritual guidelines to historical reality and see how empires influenced the way the veil was actually worn.
If we look back at early Islam, working women simply did not observe full-body veils. Honestly, it was just highly impractical for physical labor. But as we move into later centuries, the veil creeps in and becomes this powerful trend among the aristocracy. Elite women started adopting it to differentiate themselves socially. By the time we get to the Ottoman rule, veiling had cemented itself as a prominent mark of elite rank. It had basically evolved into a major socioeconomic fashion statement, signaling an exclusive lifestyle.
So, the crucial point we really need to clear up right now is the stark difference between the hijab and the niqab. The niqab is the full-body veil that actually covers the face. This is fundamentally different from the hijab. And importantly, the strict necessity of the niqab has been powerfully refuted by major scholars, like the great hadith scholar Nasr al-Din al-Albani. In reality, the full-face niqab is actually quite uncommon today when you compare it to the standard hijab.
Section 4. The modern resurgence. Let's bring this timeline right into the 20th century to look at what thrust the hijab back into the global spotlight. The year 1979 was, without a doubt, a watershed moment. You had the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and right around the same time, this massive resurgence of the hijab taking place in Egypt. These immense geopolitical events served as a powerful catalyst, really sparking the modern comeback of the hijab on the world stage.
Today, modern applications of modesty still vary wildly, depending on regional and ideological interpretations. On one end of the spectrum, we see conservative adherence, where some Orthodox Muslims and Salafists might insist on the full-face niqab. But then, on the other hand, we're seeing major institutional shifts. Take Saudi Arabia, for instance, officially relaxing its niqab rules. That alone has dramatically changed everyday street fashion and personal expression in the region. It is an incredibly complex spectrum of practice that just continues to evolve right in front of us.
Section 5. Hijab in high fashion. Let's move to our final section and see how all of this builds up to the present day.
This is the really exciting part where centuries of ancient tradition meet the modern commercial world. Fashion-conscious Muslim women are enthusiastically embracing stylish alternatives, like chic turbans. And guess what? Massive global fashion houses are totally taking note. They are launching high-end, designer veils specifically targeting Western and Gulf markets. The hijab is no longer just a traditional garment, it has dynamically evolved into a bold statement of faith that comfortably and proudly sits on global high-fashion runways.
So what does this all mean for the future? From ancient scripture straight to the runway, how will the intersection of faith, privacy, and fashion redefine modesty next? It's a fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I definitely encourage you to continue looking into the amazing evolution of our global culture. See you next time.